Shalom, I'm Cantor and this is the Torah Teaser. Thank you for inviting me into your home again. Today, or this week's Torah Teaser, is going to be simple. And that's because it's not really pulling anything out to think about specifically from this teaser, or the scriptures for this week. It's more about preparation for the high holy days to come. We should be getting ready for Rosh Hashanah, and then Yom Kippur, of course, follows. During Rosh Hashanah, as many of you know, the concept of a book of life and a book of death will be presented. If these things don't ring familiar to you, then maybe it's a good time this week, I think, to spend some time in looking up these holidays and what they mean and considering what they will mean to you personally. Now, when you read about the book of life and book of death, you might be thinking that this is a quaint Jewish concept. But actually, I think it has some merit, and I think today's verses, or this last week's verses, point to that. This week, like I said, I didn't pull out any specific verses, partly because they were all pretty much a constant theme. It's a positive message, though it lays out some dangers. Throughout it runs the point that God is here for you, cares for you, has led and sacrificed for you, redeemed you, and wants you. The story is one of reconciliation. All this boils down to the simple reality, and one that we need to understand, is that God will not do this for us. In the end, we must make a choice, and He asks us. Actually, maybe a better term is He implores us in the scriptures this week to choose life. The Jewish New Year, Rosh Hashanah, followed by the days of awe, and Yom Kippur start in about a week. The idea of the books of life and death are presented, and in this context, this week's scriptures cries out to us. Like I said, choose life. We spend time in prayer, and we do this pretty routinely, I think. The high holy days are a time of prayer, but also it's a time of study. And as I consider the new year coming up, one of the things I consider is the Torah Teaser. I hope it has, at least for some of you, caused you to pause and maybe study a bit. I've always sort of felt that when we pray, we are talking to God, and when we study, we are listening for His answer. I don't know about you, but I have much enjoyed our time together, and actually listening to you and getting your emails or listening to you in person and talking about the things that have come up in the Torah Teaser. They've been so valuable and so appreciated by me. A new year approaches, a new decision to be made along with a New Year's resolution, which usually very often only finds limited success. But in another month, we'll have to consider that we start back to the Torah, back to the beginning. We'll start back in Genesis. So we are ending out this year. This week's verses are full and upbeat towards this end, especially the Haftorah. If you read through the Haftorah, you will find, I guess love bugs are proving my point, that it is full of love. It is also full of Yeshua. It's reflected in the Haftorah. He is reflected in the Haftorah. And His sacrifice is reflected in the Haftorah. And the reason for that sacrifice is reflected. Now, I realize that there is a ton of negativity floating around you at this time. This week's verses are not about that. Remember that how you think affects what you think. What we fill our day with is eventually what we will think about, how we will view the world. If we fill it or allow it to be filled with negatives, then that's what we will think. It's all negative. The world is negative. If you find yourself there, and maybe you're a news junkie, then at least for this coming week, consider the verses and consider how they prepare you for the high holy days and how they are all a positive message. I do not believe the negatives of fear, defeat, depression, and anxiety are God's plan for us. So this week, choose to hear God's voice. And as the scriptures admonish, and as we prepare for the new year, choose life. As always, you are important to God, you are important to the body of Yeshua, and you are important to your spiritual family here at Beth Israel. Have a great holiday season coming up. The Torah teasers will, I think, probably go into hiatus just during the holidays because you'll be focused on that, and then we'll start up again afterwards. God bless.